Hello everyone, welcome to this long video where I will recap my only OTB tournament in 2022. It was a team event. It lasted around 7 weeks, so it's almost 2 months. It was supposed to be 13 rounds, but one team got disqualified and one for some reason didn't play or something like that, so it was in the end only 11 rounds. But it still lasted 7 weeks because of the way it was scheduled. Alright, so let's start with the round one. I was playing a youngster in his early 20s. I believe he is a candidate master, and I name him here as the masked man because in the venue there were two matches, so 16 players, and he was the only one with the mask. Very responsible for him, I have to admit, but it's also very strange and a little bit, I don't know. It was a little bit awkward to sit in front of this masked man. But okay, it is his choice, it is his right, and he played an interesting game. Not in the beginning, but his fighting spirit was definitely uh, prudent. Alright, so let's see. I was white, and we have reached this position on move 19. It's me to move. I'm white, and the first impression is that black's pieces are very nice. He has these central pawns that control many squares, and knights are well placed, rooks, bishop, but he has a problem. He can't advance. He can't improve his position. If this pawn ever advances or captures, it leaves this square for my pieces, and then actually the e6 pawn becomes weak. If e5 pawn advances, then I can just capture, and again I can utilize maybe this square and this diagonal. So it's a very sensitive position where black has improved to the maximum and he can't improve anymore, at least in my opinion. And I'm very proud of my next move, which looks like a beginner move. It's knight g5. So my threat is just to take a pawn. But of course he's not going to give me this pawn. The whole idea of this move is to provoke one of his king's pawns to advance, because as I have told you, he can't improve his position anymore. So now I want to provoke weaknesses in his camp, and it doesn't matter which pawn he moves. For example, if he moves h6, then he weakens the light squares, and if he plays g6 like in the game, he weakens the dark squares. And now I just came back, and if you turn on your engine, this is the best sequence, and I realized it during the game, and I was so proud. I was so proud that I found this strangely looking maneuver. You attack a pawn, you come back, but actually I have achieved something. And here he should just sit tight, and of course I will then play bishop h4 and slowly continue the build-up, but he crumbled under the pressure and he played e5, and I told you he cannot move. He just can't move these pawns. Now he's just lost, but I need to find a win. That's the problem. So after these exchanges, his e5 pawn was hanging, so he defended it. Actually, no, it wasn't hanging, but he still defended it. And now I found I was, when I considered this move, it's knight g5 again. I thought, is it possible that knight g5, knight f3, knight g5 is the way to go? And it is. This is the way to go, because now I'm threatening different infiltrations, or this one, and there are other tactical possibilities here as well, and it's amazing. This knight g5, knight f3, knight g5 again is the best thing white can do, and I found it, and I felt that it was it. So I was, at this moment, I felt so good. But now came an interesting turn of events. After h6, I have many options, and I couldn't clearly see which one is best. So I can sacrifice a piece, I can go in with my knight to either of these two squares, or I can go back. And all of these are tempting. My initial idea was to go in with the knight, but now we need some context. In this venue, when we were playing, there is a sort of bar, maybe a couple of meters away. It's just the office of that chess club, but it's a bar as well. And some people that enjoy alcohol like to hang out there every night because this is maybe the cheapest bar in the city. You can get a beer, a half a liter beer for €1. €1 converted from dinars. So around 8 p.m. they are already tipsy or more because they start drinking around 6. So this was maybe after 3 hours of play, and this is the point where these guests, some of them are chess players, some are just people that hang out there. They already had a couple of drinks, and if they open the door, which has to be opened from time to time because the waiter drinks with them in the bar, and it's also the owner of, I don't know, he is the guy who is always there, and he's the waiter, and maybe he has some chess function in that club. So whenever he opens the door, the noise is amazing. It's so loud, and sometimes they forget to close them, and this is where the party started. So I was trying to calculate the win, but they kept in and out. They were shouting, they were making so much noise. I just couldn't focus, and the arbiter warned them, but they didn't listen. So I spent 15 minutes trying to calculate here how to finish the game, and I just couldn't. So I decided to go back with my knight. But actually, it's pretty simple. For example, this is one sample line. It's pretty forced. You attack the rook, you exchange everything, and now you win a pawn. I don't see how to defend this e5 pawn. For example, if you try this, there is no checkmate, and white is just a pawn up, and he is threatening this, and it's a healthy pawn up. The pawns are going forward, and nothing black can do. So I couldn't calculate because of that noise. Okay, it's my problem that I couldn't focus with the noise around. Okay, I understand. It's not nice that these things happen, but if the conditions are such, it's the same for my opponent. Probably he has to suffer, although his position is easier to play. He just has to survive. So I don't know. I got upset, and that's my mistake. Because, okay, the problem is there is noise, I cannot calculate, but why get upset? I shouldn't have gotten upset. And because of this, in the next 10 moves, I was just not there. And even though my position is winning on the next 10 moves, I couldn't find a winning sequence on each of them. And there was one, always. And then I lost my advantage. And we got to the end game, and I won a pawn, and I'll move. So this was move 19. About move 35, I lost my advantage. Then it was equal, equal, equal. I won a pawn, and we got to this position. And now we both have, maybe I have 5 minutes, he has 2 minutes, but we get 30 seconds for each move, so nobody is going to lose on time. He has just played his knight to c7, I think, and he attacked my rook. And now this is all a repercussion of my psychological reaction to the outside problem, because my composure was not there. I was a little bit angry, and I considered moving my rook along the rank, but I saw this line where we exchanged one more pair of pawns, and this is a theoretical draw. I can try to win, maybe he will make a mistake, but it's very hard. So I didn't like it. I didn't like moving my rook to a5 because it blocks my pawn. I didn't like moving my rook to a7 because also after king d6, I think somehow my rook is stuck there. So I was trying to find a better move, how to avoid this liquidation of material. And I found an interesting move. Maybe it's not so, maybe it doesn't achieve anything, but it looks interesting. Let's keep the rook on a6, I thought, and let's move the king, and maybe we will not exchange these pawns. But I have forgotten about my rook, and the guy just captured the rook, move 68 or 67. So from move 1 to move 67, it was always equal or better for me or winning. And on move 68, I'm losing, and I just resigned. I had to resign. And what is worse, there are 8 players in each team. The score, this was the last game. The score was 3.5 to 3.5. So this game was a decider. Had it been a draw, the match would have been tied. Had I won somehow, we would have won. And it was not possible to lose. So my team captain, the president of the club, they were all there watching it. They were expecting probably a draw, maybe a win, hope. And then, from such a optimistic prognosis, they saw this in one move. All the hopes disappeared, and I was the tragic player. The masked man defeated me by stubborn defense and by some lucky turns of event outside of chess. But once again, it was my fault. My reaction to the behavior of those people that enjoy beer and brandy was wrong. So I should have accepted that the conditions are terrible, and should have just accepted it and not get annoyed by it. But I was very annoyed by it, and that influenced me to make such a terrible blunder. My energy was drained, and yeah. All right. So this was round one. Let's see what happened in round two. So in round two, I played white against an international master. And the first interesting moment was before the game started, or when the game started. When you play OTB tournaments, you're supposed to shake hands. And I was shocked by how much sweat was there on my opponent's hands. So I guess some people are nervous before the game. Maybe that's the reason. But I'm surprised. Why is an international master nervous when he needs to play me? I don't even have the title. I have a national candidate master title, but that doesn't count these days. But apart from that, he played very good chess, and he showed his higher class. So up to this point, this is move 20, I played good moves, and it's not because I was in good form or something, it's just because of the opening. Maybe you can see this was some kind of London, and in London most moves are good. So that's the reason why I played good moves. But here he started to surprise me with the moves, which are logical, but I didn't see them. So the first move is b4. I just didn't consider this move. And after c4, I didn't expect d5. So I was shocked. 2 moves in a row. With actually now these moves seem quite logical, but this shows the difference in class. That's why he is an international master and I'm not. He knows some stuff that I don't. He didn't even spend much time on them. I mean, he spent some time. I don't remember exactly, but... And even though this position is fine for white, here I already am experiencing troubles in understanding. So after g6, knight g4, b3, another move that I haven't even considered. The computer says that b3 is not accurate, and that white is maybe even slightly better or equal, but his play is much easier. He's gonna go here with his rook, he can attack my pawn, he can transfer the knight to c6 after exchanging the light square bishop, and I need to play accurately to maintain the balance, and I didn't. And so we joined the game on move 20, and on move 51, so 30 moves later, I resigned. Nothing interesting there. Actually, some parts of that game I don't understand, because when I checked with the computer, he tells me play this instead of that. It's too hard for my level. So very well played by this international master, but there was more to it. Once I resigned, the score was 3.5, 2.5 for us. And there were 2 games left, my game and my teammate on board 3. So in this match I was... No, I was board 1 in this match, and my teammate on board 2 was the only one left. So when I resigned, the score was 3.5, 3.5. And now there is 1 game left, and my teammate was defending a difficult endgame. And had he managed to defend it, it would be a tie for our club. But what happened is I said to my opponent, well played, you really outplayed me. And he started to, maybe he was happy, he started to tell how he thought he's going to finish more quickly, but he was laughing all the time. And I don't mind, he was happy that he won, even against a patzer like me. But he was so loud and he wouldn't stop. And my opponent got upset. I could see. And then he said something and we left. But I made a mistake because as soon as he started praising his play and talking about how I should have crumbled earlier, I should have said, let's go out, there is a game next to us. I was upset in the first round when there was noise by non-players, by the drunkards. But I made a mistake. I should have thought about my teammate and I should have intervened much sooner. And at that very moment, my teammate blundered and he lost the game and we lost the match. So in a way, my non-reaction, not stopping my opponent from continuing to talk in a loud voice and with some American-style laughter. You know how Americans like to laugh loudly, very joyfully. That's my experience. They have the most loud laughter and very nice laughter to hear. But yeah, I made how to say, I was not conscious enough of the situation, so I should have thought more about my teammate and I should have intervened immediately when my opponent started talking loudly after the game. So that was something I regret. My opponent said, no, it's not your fault, it's his fault that he decided to talk. But it's my fault. I had the power because I should have just showed and let's go out. And that would be it. Maybe my teammate wouldn't have blundered. But okay, something important happened after this game. So my team captain, we sometimes share a bus. It depends if we go together. If we both stay until the end of the match, usually we go on the same bus home. And he taught me, he never influences any of the players what openings will they play and so on. Sometimes he might suggest them that it's okay to accept the draw because of the team result, because in team matches sometimes you have to uh, take into account what's happening on other boards. If you're playing an individual event and you decide if you want to draw, let's say opponent offers a draw and you just think you want it or not, it is easy to draw or not. But when you play for a club, sometimes your team captain will tell you, look, you should play on because we need the result. It doesn't matter if you lose, or it's about the team. Yeah, it's nothing against the rules. It's just a consultation. This is perfectly uh, acceptable. So that's the only influence he has, and sometimes he tries to motivate us by some jokes and stuff. But he never influences our openings choices or something like that. But that night in the bus, he told me, "Look, you do what you want to do, but from what I have seen, you are doing much better in open positions, in active play. So why are you playing this London? Play something. I don't know if you don't have to, but I think you would do much better." And I said, I was thinking about that for a while. Yes, I have the Road to 2500 series where I vowed to play the London, so I will continue for a while. But here, maybe it's time to switch. So on this night, I decided to erase the London from my repertoire for this tournament. And I did so. We'll see how it all panned out in the next game. So we are in round 3. It was played at the football stadium. Really strange for a chess game, but the thing is, the host club had their venue inside the stadium. So it's one of the biggest clubs in my city. But I don't think they are related to this chess club, but maybe they are just letting them use the venue. So it was quite interesting. I have never actually been to this stadium before. All right, so in this game I played the candidate master. I was white again, and I started with e4, and we had the Pirz defense. which transposed into some kind of, I don't know, it looks like a dragon Sicilian without exchanging. But it's still a pierced defense, but a little bit unusual position. And yeah, this man, he's, I think, in his 60s, so he's past his prime, but still a candidate master, experience. He knows how to play. And he has some tricks. Later I will tell more about them. So in this position, it's me to move, and now I started to calculate. Should I take here first? Should I push? Should I take? Should I push? So many options. And similarly to the first round, there is a door. Fortunately, it's not a bar. There is no alcohol behind that door. But the next room is like some kind of classroom, and people who finished their games, they can sit there and they can analyze. And when this door is closed, the noise is not loud. But if you leave this door open, oh, those are not conditions for playing chess. And usually they kept the doors closed, but one of the opposing players, because the bathroom is also outside the toilet, when coming back from the toilet, he left the door open. And he just stood next to my table because his opponent from my team was still thinking, and he's watching my game, and I can hear people analyzing loudly, talking this and that. And I'm trying to calculate this complicated position. I'm trying to, and I just can't do it. I can't calculate when there is noise. And I asked the guy in a little bit angry voice, "Did you just enter?" And he said, "Yes." "So why don't you close the door? Close the door, please." So I said, "Please," but I was visibly angry. And he was a big guy, but he saw that I was angry, and he was polite. So he closed the door. And then I focused, and I found this not too complicated, but strong sequence. So I took on g7 first, this was important, and then I pushed e5. And this is why I need peace and quiet, because on each move there are many options. The knight can go back, he can capture, it can go forward. Yeah, some of these moves, they don't work, but you need to calculate before you take on h6. You have to calculate on this. Then when he goes here, will you sacrifice a pawn? Will you capture? Will you capture here? What are you going to do? And you cannot just play move by move. You have to calculate all of this back here. So that's why I need quiet space. I cannot do this if someone is shouting behind my back. So I found this sequence. And you see, even here, he can go like this, like this, like that, like that. Yeah, most of it doesn't work, but you have to actually verify it. And not here, but you have to verify it a few moves earlier. So I need my piece. And he chose this, but this is just bad. Because after queen d7, and this is what I saw a while back, he cannot take on c5 because he loses a bishop. So he has to do something. He defended, but now I exchange queens and play b4, and this is strategically lost. The material is equal, but this pawn is so strong. It's defended. He cannot attack my pawns, and I have means of pushing forward with my pawns, and eventually the c pawn will decide. It's probably going to cost him one of his pieces. He does have these 5 pawns here, but they are too slow. And it happened so. I played good moves from here on, and maybe 25 moves later. No, this was move. No, 35. So this was move 21, and not move 48, I think. We got to this position. And you see, I won. I told you, the c pawn will cost him a piece. And I even managed to save the c pawn, and I have an extra piece. And it is black to move here. And here my opponent did something very dirty and against the rules, but I didn't say anything because I realized that I'm going to win. So I said, okay, I'm just going to let him run away with it. I'm just going to let him, how do you say in English? I'm just going to pretend like it didn't happen. So what did he do? So it's his move, and on my clock I have less than 30 seconds. And on each move I do get 30 seconds, but I need to write down a move too. And the rule is you must not make a move before you write it down. So when he makes a move, I first have to write it down, then I have to make my move and write it down as well. I will get 30 seconds, but I will wait some time on writing those moves and making them. And what he did, I saw him. He wrote in the score sheet, capture here, which he is not allowed to do. By the modern rules of chess, you're not allowed to write down your move before you make it. You could have done it, you could do it 20 years ago, it was allowed, but today, no. You must make the move, then write. And then he wrote that I will take, because that's my obvious move. So he wrote his move, he wrote my move, and he wrote his next move. So he wrote two of his moves and one of my moves in advance, which is against the rules. So I had the option of calling an arbiter here and complaining, but I thought, all right, I'm just not gonna do it. I'm just gonna beat him because he's lost. I can see the winning continuation. I let him do his dirty trick. So that's what he did. He wrote the moves in advance, and when he took, he didn't have to write. So when I had to write, to waste maybe 6, 7 seconds, 5 seconds, 3 seconds, depending how fast I write. And then he was already making his next move. But I get that 30 seconds, so it was enough for me not to lose on time. And then he did the second. Okay, this is not a dirty thing, but it's, I don't know why. For example, here, he played on for another 9 moves. Why? What are you hoping for against a player who had reached this position by superior play? There is no chances that you will survive this. So after the game, I didn't mention that he broke the rule. I pretended like it didn't happen, but I asked him, so sir, what were you hoping for in the last 10 moves? Did you expect a nuclear strike or for me to have a heart attack? And he didn't like my comment. But I think I would say the same, because if some opponent, he's a candidate master, I'm a national candidate master, so you don't play this. I mean, you can play, I will make moves, but what? You cannot save this position. It's not, there is no chance. Especially because after making those previous several moves quickly, I gained a few minutes. So now I'm not even in time trouble. So we exchanged a few sentences later. It turns out he's a really nice person. But sometimes when people play long competitive games, there is a lot of stress, and this drive to win or drive not to lose brings out the worst of some people, or they even become a person who they aren't, I think. Because later we exchanged a few sentences. He seemed like a very decent guy, but you see, he broke the rule trying to maybe force me into a situation where I will lose on time or make a mistake because of time trouble. And then this is not against the rules, the second thing, but it's against the rules of fair play. When two experts play, you don't play this position, you just resign. All right, this is second one is debatable. The first one, he clearly broke the rule. But then again, in this short conversation with him, I realized that he is actually a nice person. But you see, sometimes when people play chess, the nerves can do different things to different people, and they can behave in strange ways. Alright, so finally my team won the first match, and I was not the tragic guy, so I was happy, and my first game with e4 worked out well. So let's see what happened in the next game. So in round 4, I was black as another candidate master. He used to be a very strong player. He is about my age, but now he seldomly plays, so his rating has dropped, but he knows chess. And we have reached this position. I'm black, and it's my move. I'm a pawn down, but I was considering capturing that pawn. And before I tell you a funny story, I'll just show you what I was calculating. So I was calculating to capture, but now I had to consider e5. And then if he captures, I again after capturing, I have to consider e5 or the normal move. And then on the next move, again, I have to consider, sorry, that's what he played. I have to consider e5 or some other moves like queen c3. If I take the bishop, I get checkmated. If I block the diagonal, again, e5. So if I now take the bishop, he breaks through, and I had to calculate all of that, and it's not easy. And there is more. For example, if I take the pawn, he takes with the knight. It's a crazy position. And then if I take the knight, he takes with the queen, and I win a piece. I have two pieces now, but he recovers one, and I was trying to see this. So this is 9 moves deep, and all the sidelines. And while I was trying to figure this out and what's happening in this position, one of the teammates of my opponent came to our table and stood right next to us, and he started rocking back and forth, back and forth. It's like big swing, and you cannot not see it. He's there, like it's not even half a meter. It's just there. And I told him, "Sir, do you have to dance in front of my table?" And he left. So he left. But then what happened? As soon as he left, my opponent stood up from the table, took the place of this teammate of his, which I chased away, and started rocking not back and forth, but left and right. And I was like, what is happening? And I am sure that he didn't do it on purpose, because I actually we had a beer after the game, and he's a nice guy. He was just nervous. He didn't even realize what he was doing. I'm pretty sure. Because what I did is when I saw him, so I just chased one guy who was rocking back and forth, and now my opponent is waiting for me to make a move and rocking left and right, and I told him, come on, didn't you just see that I chased the guy away? Can you not do that? And then he said something which I didn't understand, because I was so angry that I couldn't hear him. And I said, all right, don't fool around. Sit there or go. And he just quietly sat down. And that showed that he's a respectful guy, but I think he was just so nervous that he didn't realize that was so annoying for me. That's what I believe. And actually, this is a guy with some class, because before the game, I checked some of his games. When he sees that the position is hopeless, he resigns. He doesn't play like that previous opponent, that position or something, as you will see in this game too. So I was calculating all this wild stuff, and of course I couldn't calculate everything, but I tried, and my luck was that he was short on time, my opponent, that is. So he didn't see queen c3, which is interesting, but he saw e5, and that was the best move, and probably would have given him good winning chances. But he played a weak move, queen f4, and now his attack stopped. So after some consolidating moves, there is no more attack, and now it's a bad position. This is a typical for Benko Gambit, because this position came from Benko Gambit, and here it's a sad story for white. So after a couple of precise moves by me, it turns out that his knight cannot go back so easily. So he played e5, and this is how the game finished. Here he resigned. As I told you, he is the guy who resigns like Karpov would have done. You know, Karpov 30 years ago, when he was in a position that he considered hopeless, he would often resign. So this guy has class. Of course, on a lower level, you don't need to resign so prematurely, but this guy has class. He knows that he cannot save it. But what was my plan? Had he played knight f3, I prepared capturing on e4, and then here, not sacrificing a piece, but leaving it on pre for one move, and then rook f3. That was my idea. And if he takes it, f5, and now I am forcing the king and pawn endgame, which is 1 for black. So this was my idea a couple of moves ago. Unfortunately, it didn't happen because my opponent played e5. But anyways, yeah. So here, what I'm not proud of is the choice of words that I mean, I had to stop the first guy because it's not his game. He is also participating in a match. He's playing for opposing team, and while it's my move and a complicated position, he shouldn't be making such large amplitude movements right in front of my eyes because it's disturbing. Definitely, it's not like he was a little bit swinging. He was swinging like, like. How do you call like a pendulum, from one side of the world to another, and but then my opponent he did the same, only in 90 degrees rotated, So yeah, I should have maybe used a quieter tone, but there was during this tournament I was mostly exhausted and my nerves were not there. I had, as you can see, several times I was either affected by some little things or I couldn't control myself and I had to raise my voice or use strong language to force things my way. Uh, it turned out that I had better results in those games where I did say something than in those where I kept quiet. But yeah, in this league, often the playing conditions are not perfect. They are most of the time, but these kind of incidents happen a lot. Anyways, this was another victory for my team, and yeah, a good game, which I should have lost probably, but I was lucky that my opponent didn't have time, and also I am a little bit regretful that I was a little bit rude to the guy when I told him sit down or move away, which I am not allowed to do. That's against the rules. I should not even talk to my opponent, but my emotions took the better of me. And but all right, in the end, I bought him a beer. We had a maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour chat, and we sorted things out. And I'm happy that I met this player. He's a very nice person. All right, let's see what happened in round 5. So in round 5, I was supposed to play a FIDE master, but I couldn't come to the game because this game was actually scheduled on Friday and I had to go to work. And we were short on players. You have to put a player's name on the list. If you don't do that, you get disqualified. So he put my name there, even though I knew that I cannot come, and I lost by forfeit. But it was funny. A couple of our players couldn't come, and a couple of their players couldn't come. So in the end, somehow the match finished 4-4. I don't know exactly who was there, who came, but the total was 4-4. So even though we were handicapped, they were too, because the game was scheduled on Friday, and many people have to go to work on Friday. So just something to say, I played once against this FIDE master and I won a beautiful game. It was 3 years ago, but I believe that this time he would have beaten me had we played, because this year my play was not so great and his play was decent, and his decent play is better than my decent play. And if I'm playing subpar, that means he's a favorite. And that year, when I had beaten him, I was playing very well, and he was playing below his level. So those were the reasons for my victory. Anyways, he won. By forfeit, since I had to go to work. All right, let's see what happened in game 6. So in round 6, I played against my weakest opponent in terms of rating. He was rated under 2000 FIDE, 1950 FIDE, and I don't think he's even a candidate master. I think he's like a first category player. That's how we call them here, or something like an expert in the Western world. And he played strangely in the opening, and we got to this position. I had sacrificed a pawn, but his pieces are not really developed, and his queen is blocking his light square bishop, and his king is in the center. And after bishop c3, he found an interesting move, because of course he can't take the bishop, he loses the exchange. He cannot really block, because then I just regain my pawn with a better endgame. But he found maybe the best move, king d1. And here I was pretty confident that my position is overwhelming, because he cannot castle, he's not developed, and all he's got for it is one pawn. But somehow I messed up. I'll just show you a couple of more moves. So this is what happened, and now he went for capturing my rook, and I could have evacuated like this for the price of this pawn, because he can capture it, and that was a viable option, but I decided to sacrifice the exchange, and this is okay. Now the position is balanced as it was before. Computer always claims that it's about equal. Slight advantage to white or black changes depending on the move, but I failed to play accurately, and soon enough he got a winning advantage. And what is interesting, that here, when he captured my rook, he started clenching his teeth, and it was, this is, I am not saying this as an excuse, but it was strange, because this time, for finally, there was peace and quiet in the playing venue, and I was happy that I can focus on the game. But oh boy, that sound, I cannot replicate it. That squeaking sound of his jaws pressing against each other. I was afraid for the guy. I thought that he's gonna break his teeth. He was pressing them so loudly, and that lasted for 1 hour, because from this point on we played maybe for another hour or 1 hour and a half, and all the time, all you could hear there was this sound. And come to think of it, probably he has artificial teeth, because I don't think that his teeth could survive that kind of pressure. I don't know, I'm not a dentist. But yeah, I mean, it was scary. It was scary. It wasn't that annoying. More, I felt really scared for him. I thought he's gonna break his teeth. That's why I put this description, the clenching teeth guy. But he played well. He defended originally and stubbornly, and I was overconfident. And somewhere later on, I made some inaccuracies, then mistakes, and maybe 30 moves from here, he eventually won. I was fighting, but he prevailed. This game didn't influence the result of the match, because somehow most of our players lost their games very quickly. So when I was playing this game, the match was already lost. I was just trying to play a good game, but unfortunately I wasn't up to the task. And yeah, what I will remember from this game is that sometimes the position might look beautiful, but actually it's not that great, or you have to be cautious. And also, it's hard to forget that sound. Yeah, it still haunts me. Let's see what happened in the next game. So we are in game 7. We played in one venue, which I don't have good memories of, because every time I played there, I lost. So I don't play there often, but I remember this building and some place where I just lose all my games. So on that day, I decided to turn things around. I was black against the candidate master. And what is interesting for this league, each team will bring 8 players, but before the competition they register 16 players usually, or 15, 14, depending how many they have, and then they have the option of resting some of them. And somehow in all but the last game, and that game in round 2 where International Master was my opponent, I couldn't predict my opponent. Somehow the guy who usually plays wouldn't show up, and some replacement would show up of similar strength. So this was the case here. This guy, he didn't even play so much this year, but somehow their main guy didn't come, so he played on board one. And this weekend, I was born one on my team, and yeah. So let's see what happened. So he before he made his first move, he asked me, "Do you want to draw?" So that I know if I should play seriously. And I was like, okay, let's play. And I actually asked my team captain, and he said, "You decide. The match has just started." And I said, "Let's play." So we played, and he didn't play very ambitiously. Neither did I. But very soon, I believe here, Black has after b5, Black has already equalized. And I'm not analyzing too much. I'm just going to show you this game. I think I played a really nice game. And so here you see I'm slowly improving my pieces, and I am actually preparing sometimes to take here, and sometimes to go here or to transfer the knight. There are many plans, but it's all very subtle. So I'm just preparing everything. But he's also playing against my plans. But eventually, now he is in sort of trouble. I'm threatening to jump in here, and sometimes this can be dangerous because I have c5 opening this bishop. So it's a little bit complicated, and he decided to take on e5. I think it was premature because now suddenly it's not even equal. Now Black is the one with the initiative. And let's see, I started my moving my queenside pawns, and you see he's just defending. Okay, he's attacking on the king side, but it isn't going anywhere. With all these pieces around my king, it's hard to imagine getting checkmated, although we'll see. So also I forgot to mention, maybe on move 15, or was it here, somewhere around here, he offered the draw again, which, I don't know exact rule. I think it should be 30 moves before, if you offer a draw and your opponent declines, there is a certain amount of moves, I believe, according to FIDE rules, that needs to be played before you can offer again. Because if your opponent said no, why offer again? But okay, I declined. And so here things started to become interesting. He has weakened his light squares, so maybe I can take advantage of that. And let's see what happened. So I'm shuffling my knight towards the d3 square, and now his position is critical because my knight is in, and he correctly evaluated that if that knight gets to f4, he is in trouble. So he sacrificed in exchange, very resourceful. I have to take it, I believe. And now he does develop an attack. But my plan all along was to give back the exchange at a certain point, and then just to win one of his queenside pawns and have a better or winning endgame. And something like that happened, but it was not an endgame. That was a problem. So this is the moment where I think, yeah, so you see, I took the pawn, and now I'm ready. When his attack becomes too powerful, I plan to give back the exchange. This was the moment. Yeah. So I give back the exchange, I stop his initiative, and now I just need not to get checkmated. Let's see if I succeeded. So here, I believe very soon his position became lost, according to the computer. But to find queen d3, so exactly at this moment, I spent a lot of time because I was trying to calculate, is he gonna checkmate me on the h file with his queen and rook? So this required precise play, so I spent a lot of time, and suddenly I was in time trouble. Maybe sometimes I had even like 15 seconds on the clock, but when I make a move I get 30, and sometimes I would make two fast moves, so I would go over a minute or up to 2 minutes in the next part of the game. But he started to do something which I didn't understand, but I understood it the next day. When sometimes after a game you think about what was happening, and then you get the different perspective. So he had 45 minutes on the clock, or so he had a lot of time. And I was in time trouble, but I was very relaxed. But what he started to do is he started to change his body motion. So he would make his moves very quickly and with a big bang on the clock, and to type them fast, and like we are playing a bullet game or blitz. Okay, in bullet game you don't write down moves. And I was like, first I noticed, of course, and I was like, what is the guy doing? I'm in time trouble, not him. Why should he suddenly change his body posture, his speed of movements, the power with which he hits the clock, and the speed with which he throws the pencil? It's like he was on seconds. And I understood it only the next day. What he was doing, I strongly believe in it. He was trying to influence me. Because if you are there and your opponent is doing it, it's kind of contagious. You see a nervous man, it's hard to stay calm. And I wasn't that nervous, but it influenced me a little bit. It was like, what is happening? Why is he? Sometimes I make a move, I have 15 seconds, and then I go to 45 and I'm still relaxed, but he's still doing that. And I believe that on some level it did influence me. But that was not the reason why I faltered later. It's all about myself. But let's see. I think it was his tactic, because, I mentioned the guy who was rocking, and I honestly believe that he didn't do it on purpose, because later when I spoke with the guy, I saw an honesty in him. I saw that he's not like that. But this guy, offered a draw even though you offered and your opponent declined. And then later, when the game finished, some remarks that he made. Now I'm pretty sure that it was all part of his, plan to try to win at any cost by trying to make me be nervous in my time trouble, even though I wasn't. And finally, he put his pieces on the H file, but there is nothing here. I saw all this. Now my king is in the center. He has to go back to protect the knight, but I need to finish him off. And I made a mistake here. My initial plan was to go with the queen here, because now I'm threatening this move. But I thought that on this check I can cover, and that's true. But for some reason I thought, why do that when this wins immediately? So I played knight f4 thinking that he has to take. But because if he takes, then he collapses. But he doesn't have to take. So he pushed his king. And now the win is also there. I just need to go here. And I threaten checkmate in 2 moves. But I didn't see it. So I gave another check. He went back and I said, okay, I'll just go back with my knight to protect the h8 square. And, he has no attack. Now, if he takes the pawn, so what? I'll just bring in my queen and checkmate him. But here came the shocking moment. So at this point, I managed to get some seconds. So I had maybe about almost 2 minutes on the clock. And when he played this move, and he played it with such confidence, he put it, he banged the clock, and I don't know, it was like when a boxer goes to you, take this. I felt like someone had slapped me in the face. It was so shocking when he put this rook here. And now I see, if I take the rook, then he can win my queen, yeah? Because the knight was defending there. He is threatening to checkmate me. And I was like, what? And I couldn't regain composure for at least a minute. I was just there staring, not be able to think. Maybe some of you who have played in OTB tournaments have experienced this, but this move was such a shock, especially because of his body movement, and it was like gloating. I got you. You didn't want to draw. I got you. And I couldn't find the move. The winning move is king c7. because my queen joins the defense and my bishop joins the defense, and the rook is there. And then on the next move, I'm going to move in with the queen. Actually, now I am threatening to take the rook. So it was impossible to me to find this move, and I just, out of despair, um, took his rook, and after this check, I resigned. But what is the problem here? You know, the guy wants to checkmate you, and you need to use this queen and this bishop to defend backwards. And for me, this is hard to see even when I am, calm and composed and when there is enough time, not to mention after such a shock of rook h8. I mean, well done to him for fighting rook h8, because it's not an obvious move and it's a beautiful move. It doesn't work, but it worked. It worked on that day. But what I don't like is that after the game, I played a nice game, maybe one of my best games in this tournament. I slowly outplayed my opponent. I got into winning position, and then I was shocked. I couldn't find the way through. And then what did he do after the game? He started laughing and telling me, "I offered the draw 2 times, but you didn't want." And this was also the last game. Same story. 3.5, 3.5. My game is last. It decides the outcome of the whole match. So his team won, my team lost. And yeah, he deserved it, because in the end he is the winner. But I played better the whole game and I lost. And you don't do that to your opponent who was nice, who didn't do anything wrong, and who just lost the game and lost the match for his team. And you don't laugh at his face and tell him how you offered him a draw, but he was stupid not to take it and now he's punished. I mean, he didn't use those words, but yeah, some guys, even though this guy was like 50, even though they're in their 50s, they don't have manners. And this guy is one of those guys. That's why I believe that all that acting when I was in time trouble and he was not, it was intentional. I really believe that it was part of his strategy. That didn't disturb me completely, maybe a little bit, but that's not the reason. The reason is that when he played rook h8, I didn't react mentally proper. I mean, I was somehow I was shocked. I was really shocked, and yeah. So it's a theme of this tournament. My mental state, my psychological um, stamina, my ability to recognize when are the moments that I need to have a cool head, and so on. So this was my biggest weaknesses in this tournament. Anyways, so the building keeps the status of unattainable in that building, when in that venue. Whenever I play, I, I lose a game. This time I didn't manage to win again, but I hope next time when I visit this building, I will win. That's my hope. All right, let's see what happened in round 8. So next is round 8, and I played against a FIDE master who doesn't have an FM in front of his name. And usually the reason for this is when some people acquire the title, they decide not to apply officially with FIDE, and you have to pay the fee. I think it's 100 euros or 80 euros, something like that. So my opponent from round 8 uh, acquired the title a few decades ago, but for some reason, usually you play for some club and they pay this fee for you. Maybe he wasn't a member of a club, maybe he didn't just care. So in front of his name there is no FM, and now he is a little bit older than me. Now he lost some strength, but still a formidable opponent. And this is move 15. I have just played g6, and I took a stroll around the playing venue. And my captain approached me, my team captain approached me, and he said, if you draw the game, the score will be 4-2 for us, and there will be 2 games remaining, and in both of these games we have good positions. So maybe you should offer him a draw if you agree. And I said, okay. I'll do that. Let's see if he's. Although I liked this position, I liked it's similar to the round 8 position. It was the same opening and very similar position. Actually, it wasn't the same opening, but we got to a similar position. And after he had played g3, to offer a draw, you must first make a move. So I had to make a good move. If I make a bad move and offer a draw, maybe he will decline. So I played the best move. I didn't know it was the best, but the computer confirmed. And I offered the draw, and maybe he considered it for a minute and then he accepted. But actually, I like black's position here because I can later push my b and a pawns like in that round 8 game, and also sometimes I can harass him here, and I pretty much stopped him with his intentions. But okay, it's just a slight advantage for black, although he thought that it was completely equal. But then the computer confirmed my evaluation, and luckily the last 2 games, one of our teammates won and another one drew, so we won this match. Yeah, so that was round 8. Not much happened there. Let's see the next game. So we are in game 11, or I should say round 11, because it is my game 9. But what had happened is that in round 9, we played a team that was disqualified, so we didn't play. They were disqualified just before, I mean, the round before. I even don't know why they were disqualified, but for some reason they were banished from the competition. And then the next round, round 10, because there is an odd number of teams, each round one team is free, so that was our first free day off, yeah, we don't play. And at this point I had also quit my job because I was completely exhausted, and I was happy that I got a day off from chess. So yeah, so starting this game I was jobless again, and I was at least somewhat refreshed, but still it took me at least 6-7 days to completely recover. That job took so much out of me. So I played the candidate master, which is very strong. He is young, he is in his 30s, and he plays really good chess. And here it was his move. He was black. You can see he has the bishop pair advantage. Um, and So he has the bishop pair advantage, and the position is kind of open, and he played b5, trying to open lines. I can't really move that knight, so I have to take. Now I played bishop g5, thinking that he must take, because I was putting pressure on his bishop. And he surprised me by not taking, and I was like, the previous few moves were all preparing rook e6, because I had a king here and a bishop here, and I moved them on my previous moves just to make this tactic possible. And this moment came, and I was like, is it really possible? And I was thinking about it, but I thought, oh, in my variations the pawn was on b6, it wasn't attacking the knight. And I took about 5 minutes here, and I thought that it doesn't work, but actually rook e6, my planned move, works perfectly here, and I didn't play it. I played like a wuss. I played knight e3 and quickly lost the game. But rook e6 is an amazing move, because look, so many of my pieces are hanging, but whichever way he goes, it's not good for him. For example, if he takes my knight, I just take his rook, and then I pick up his knight, and he can't take my bishop because I take, and now I'm winning. I take his bishop, so very interesting. And the next option, if he takes with the king, then I give this check, and if he goes back, it's a similar story, but this time I'm not winning a piece, but I have I'm an exchange down for 2 pawns, but this knight is very strong, and it holds my whole queen side. He had the option of going with the king to the center here, but it's a little bit dangerous if he goes here, and it's also very crazy. It starts with rook e7, so this is the part that I couldn't I couldn't calculate properly. And there was a third option after rook e6. He could have taken on a1, but it's pretty similar to the other lines. So yeah, something like this, where again I have great compensation. I think white is better here, but during the game I couldn't see all of this. I saw some of it, but it was all blurry in my mind, and I thought that it's not good. So I gave up on it, and I quickly lost the game. And this opponent was a very nice guy. I really have nothing to object. He was behaving according to fair play, unlike some other opponents. Not all, but unlike some of the previous opponents. And also, this game didn't influence the match because most of my teammates lost, so the result of this game wouldn't change anything. Okay, let's see what happened in the last two rounds. So here we are in round 12. Yeah, my graphic is not accurate. It says game 12. Actually, it's my game 10, but round 12. This game was played at a very interesting facility. It's Theological University, because they have a club, and some of their players are professors, and some of their players are actually Orthodox Christian priests. And it was an interesting experience to play against such a team. Oh, of course, some of them players are not from that world. They just joined their club. I think my opponent was neither a priest nor a professor. Not sure. He also has a German citizenship, which is pretty rare in my country. So, but anyways, he made a mistake in the opening, and we've got this position. I was white. It was the Sicilian defense, and somehow we got here. I'm an exchange up, and I'm attacking, and I started my finishing operation with bishop a6. If he takes the bishop, then his position quickly collapses. This is one sample line. There are other ways too. So he has to defend the c6 knight. So he went back, but now another good move, bishop d4, attacking the rook. Rook moved, and now bishop f6, ignoring that my bishop is hanging, because it ain't hanging. If he takes, again, he can get checkmated with this pretty queen sacrifice, or he can take here with the queen, and something similar would happen to what happened in the game, which we will see. Bishop h6 was actually his move, and now bishop b7. He took my rook, and now after taking c6, again he can't take with the knight because this is a checkmate. And when he takes with the queen, queen a7 leads to quick checkmate, but I saw another way. It's a little bit slower, but it's very pretty. Rook sacrifice. Actually, it's not sacrifice, it wins the queen because there is a pin here. Also, right now, queen d6 is threatened to capture the knight, and also bishop is threatened. So the only way to stop it is bishop f4, but that loses another piece. After these moves, black cannot capture because this bishop will be unguarded. So this was a successful match. We won convincingly, although this University of Theology has a very strong team, but some of their best players are usually not playing. My opponent was a candidate master, I think, in this game, but maybe not in the best form in this tournament. Similarly to me, but I prevailed today. So we have one more round left. So here we are in round 13, last game of the tournament. It was my 11th game, but because I told you one team was disqualified, and in one round we had day off. This was the first time in this tournament that I had a lot of free time before the game. So, and I guessed correctly who will I play. And I checked this young man. Maybe he is about 30 years of age or something like that. Maybe late 20s, I'm not sure. And I haven't heard of him before, but there are a lot of his games online and OTB games. He played in many tournaments. And he's an amazing player. I checked his game. The guy knows opening. He plays e4, d4, knight f3, c4, everything. With black, he also plays all kinds of openings, but I focused on his white games. Then, he can attack. He can defend. He plays the endgame well. He plays unclear positions well. The more I looked at his game, I looked at about 10, I rarely do that, but I looked at maybe 10, 15 games of his briefly, and it looked so impressive. He also beat international masters. I don't remember grandmasters, but FIDE masters, international masters. He just beats them like nothing. But he had a period where he probably quit chess or something, so he lost a lot of rating points. So he is somewhere between 2100 and 2200 right now. But I talked to him after the game. He actually last year he played a tournament where he was beating 2400. He won. He almost won Norm, an international master Norm. So he's a very strong player. But obviously, I didn't ask him. There are some things outside of chess that are hindering him. Maybe he works too much. Maybe who knows? I don't know the story. But obviously, very talented and very knowledgeable guy. He is also from Montenegro, but resides here in Serbia. And of course, he outplayed me in the opening. And to tell you the truth, I was really pessimistic. I mean, of course, I always want to win, but this was the first time this year that before the game, I felt like I don't have any chances against this player. And yeah, so he outplayed me, and we got to this position. And here, you see, my problem is my position is so cramped and I cannot do the main ideas of breakthroughs. So I can never push b5 because the knight goes here after exchanging. I cannot push f5 because my rooks are not ready, my knights are not ready. So these are the thematic moves, f5 and b5, and they don't work. What does it mean? I don't have counterplay, so I just have to sit and wait. And he can slowly improve his position. He found after the game, he showed me this move, we analyzed. I couldn't figure out what to play here. Also, he could have played just simple rook. So it's just slowly improving his position. But he saw a way to force things, and that was his mistake actually. He took this pawn. Of course, I exchanged queens. And now, if he doesn't push this pawn, I'm going to block with the knight and I have a great position. Everything has changed. But he found this beautiful move, d6. And the computer showed us that it is better not to take this pawn. But we analyzed him, me, and some of my strong teammates. We spent a couple of hours analyzing. We thought that we must take this pawn because whatever we put on the board, white was winning. So it turns out in our human eyes, knight d6 is the only move. But actually computers say it's not the best. So what was his idea? He put the rook here and he didn't see this move. So he thought that I have to go there. And then he picks up this pawn and his position is beautiful. But after rook e8, knight e8, he thought he has this, but actually that doesn't work because my knight goes out, and when he protects, my bishop goes somewhere and my rooks are connected. So that doesn't work. But what did work? Knight d5. This is a very strong move, and this one we analyzed the most after the game. And here, white cannot lose. He is a pawn down, and he is playing for a win. It's very complicated. There are many lines, and I'm lucky that he didn't play this because here it looks like the only move is king h8. All other moves that look logical lead to some kind of bad endgame for black. But he went here attacking my pawn and preparing a5 to break my pawns and to pick them all, you know. But he didn't see bishop e6, because in his mind this pawn is hanging. But actually I have this trick, and suddenly the tables have turned. Here was his last chance. He should have gone back and accepted that we are equal now. But he took that pawn, and now there is a problem. These rooks, they are lined up for a double attack. So when I go knight f6, I'm threatening to fork the two rooks, and because of that, he cannot save the rook on the fifth rank. That one cannot be saved. So he tried rook d3, but after knight g4, it turns out that that rook will be trapped. He gave up the exchange here and quickly lost, but had he tried to escape with the rook, I can quickly catch this rook, because now I'm threatening both knight f3 and knight d3, so rook has to go to e3, and after g5, rook h5, f6, now new ideas come into play. This and this, so this rook is basically lost. Even if I don't take that rook, it's stuck there, but I will take it. So he took on e6, but after f e6, it was a quick finish. So miraculously, I have beaten this strong player. I don't know how. I mean, I know how. He saw a forcing line, he thought it was very good for him, and he went for it, and actually it wasn't so good. But had he just been patient, eventually my position would have collapsed, probably. So, and actually by this win, I helped my team win this match. So finally, in the last round, I was the hero. Yeah, after being the tragic person several times in the first part of the tournament, in the last round, I brought one victory to my team because this time my win mattered. Yeah, alright, so the tournament, one of my worst tournaments ever, but still a good experience. I have some theories why I played like this year, and but it requires to share a lot of personal stuff and things about how my life has been going this year. So I'll just keep it for myself. Also, there are chess reasons, not just psychological reasons. There are also chess reasons that contributed to this bad result this year. And on these, it's much easier to work on than on those life issues. Anyways, I'm happy that I had a chance to play chess. It's not that you can do that very often. You know, the league competitions are perfect because usually the games are on the weekend. So even if you go to work or have other obligations, somehow you can manage to play most of the games. So I'm really happy that I played regardless of the result. My team finished in 4th place out of 13 clubs. The first two teams went to the second Serbian league, so we will have to play in the third league same year again. Hopefully we'll qualify for the higher rank next year. Thank you for watching, and see you again. Bye.